Some things are simple. Putting $1,500 per year back in families' pockets, good. Hitting hardworking Americans with a $4.5 trillion tax hike, not good. Unleashing affordable American energy, good. Wasting money on Green New Deal scams, not good. Securing our borders, good. A broken immigration system, not good. America needs lower taxes, more energy, and stronger borders. Congress, the time to act is now. Learn more at protectprosperity.com. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hello, Beat Check listeners. I'm Shane Dixon Kavanaugh, Portland City Hall reporter for the Oregonian Oregon Live, and your host today. Lawmakers in Salem recently enacted a series of substantive tweaks to the state's beloved bottle bill, which, as most are aware, allows residents to return cans and bottles for 10 cents apiece. Those changes have helped amplify a growing and complicated debate about the First in the Nation program, which is now more than 50 years old. Does Portland and some other pockets of the state have a cash for cans crisis? What should city and state officials do about the drug, crime, and livability problems surrounding some BottleDrops? And will these revisions to the bottle bill make the issue better? Joining me today is reporter Aimee Green, who just finished a 4-part series that dug deep into these questions and more. Aimee, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, I'm always happy to be on Beat Check.
And I always enjoy the opportunity to chat with you about some of your stories that I very much enjoy. So thanks again for being here.
Yeah.
So before we start talking about this bottle bill series that you recently wrapped up, I just wanted to note for listeners and our readers, you may have noticed that this year, Aimee has been spending quite a bit of time focused on Oregon state politics and government and covering the legislature, which is a little different from what you've done during your career at the Oregonian. And I was just hoping you could take a moment or so to sort of talk about the many hats you've worn in our newsroom since coming to the paper.
Yeah, well, I can't believe it, but this year marks 25 years at the Oregonian for me. During that time, I have covered suburban schools, suburban cities, jails, prisons, the court system, and intertwined with the court system, the mental health and drug crises. That's pretty much it. It's been quite a range and quite an education about how things work in Oregon.
And one of the things I know about you as a reporter, that if something captures your attention and gets your interest, you can start off kind of slow looking into a piece or a topic that you think is going to lead to just one story. And then lo and behold, it results in a multi-part series, a deep dive investigation. And it looks like your work on the recent changes to the bottle bill is no exception to that sort of pattern. And so I was just wondering, what got you going on this, and how did this turn from just sort of a beginning look at these sort of wonky legislative changes into something much more substantial and profound?
So this bill was exceptionally wonky, like the wonkiest I've seen this legislative session. There are so many terms in it that the average Oregonian is not familiar with. For example, alternative access redemption centers, convenience zones, terminology I've never heard anybody say. And so it actually took me a day or two of reading the bill and reaching out to people who understand the beverage container redemption system and asking them, what does this bill say? I know the bottle bill is hugely important to Oregonians. It has been around for my whole life and the lives of most Oregonians, the majority of Oregonians, I'd say. I looked at this bill and I began to see that it was changing the way that Oregonians could redeem their bottles and cans. And that 10 cents for each beverage container really means a lot to Oregonians. So I wanted to tell Oregonians first, in diving into this bill, just how is this bill going to change what you do when you bring your cans and bottles to the grocery store or to a BottleDrop. But then I began thinking more about who is redeeming these bottles and cans, and talking to sources and thinking about the drug crisis in Oregon, and discovering that a lot of people who are addicted are relying on cans and bottles to pay for their for the drugs they use, and that, as we've all heard in recent years, the drugs are exceptionally cheap. They got as low as about $1 for a blue counterfeit fentanyl pill. I'm hearing now that, with inflation, it affects everything. It might be a couple dollars or up to $5 to buy some drugs, but that's 50 cans and bottles and doesn't take long. I began to look into who are the Oregonians using the bottle bill, and discovered that it's all sorts of Oregonians. It's not only drug users, it's people who are strapped for cash, people trying to make ends meet. I talked to various people who said, I set my cans and bottles out in my recycling bin on the curb each week. And each week there is a stream of people who walk by or drive by. Several people told me that people even come by with their children to, maybe the children hop out of the car, or the children are on foot walking up with them and digging through the recyclables and even their trash cans, just because they want to make sure if there's an extra beverage container that got misplaced in the trash, they're going to pull it out so they can redeem it. So I learned that this is a very complex and complicated issue. And
for this series, and links to all of these pieces will be in the show notes of this program, and I encourage folks who haven't had a chance to read Aimee's work on this topic should definitely do so. But there's no shortage of people that you interviewed and talked to for this story. You spent quite a bit of time with lawmakers. You talked to the beverage and recycling industry folks. You talked to convenience store owners, including the owner of Plaid Pantry here in Portland. But you spent also just what appears to be a substantial amount of time on the ground talking to people outside of these BottleDrops and redemption centers. And I was wondering if you could sort of, walk us through, that particular part of the reporting and why you thought that was so important.
Yeah, so there are two main BottleDrops in Portland. There's 27 BottleDrops, full service redemption service centers, which are known as BottleDrops around Oregon, but two of them are in Portland.
So really fast, because we are talking about sort of the wonky terms here. Yes. So when you say full service, BottleDrop redemption center, like what is it? What does that mean exactly?
Good point. It's usually a standalone building that might be part of a strip mall. It's a space where an Oregonian can return any redeemable can or bottle. They can have it hand counted. They can feed the cans and bottles into a machine that's called a reverse vending machine that counts their containers, and they can also bundle up their beverage containers into specially marked green bags or blue bags, which are kind of like large trash bags, but it's not trash. You put your cans and bottles in these bags and you can drop them off at BottleDrops, and your account will be credited within a day, or usually a few days. It has to be within a week by the rules. And it's just supposed to be a convenient place that you can go to redeem your bottles and cans, either for yourself or you can donate the money to charity. And so, there's two in Portland. Two main BottleDrops in Portland. One's in Northeast Portland at Gleason and 122nd. And the other one is in Delta Park, or right next to Delta Park in North Portland. So to answer your question, I thought that I really should go out and see what's happening at the BottleDrop centers. I had talked to many people about what they had seen happen around there. People who live around them, who work around them. And so on a Saturday afternoon in May, I went to the Delta Park BottleDrop and spent the afternoon there and watched what happened and talked to people about why they were there and what it meant to them to be able to get cash for their beverage containers.
How many people did you end up talking to during these long days at the BottleDrop centers?
I did actually. I was just thinking about that this morning. I probably talked to about 30 people. And I walked up to people who showed up in cars and just were dropping off their green bags full of bottles and cans. It's a really quick thing. Just there's a little door you pull open on the side of the building and you drop them in, and then you're off and your account will get credited. And they told me they were spending the money for everything they needed in life to make do, for food, to help pay the rent, and especially extras. Like there were a lot of people who said, I just use it for something special. Like there was a dad with his 9-year-old son, and they save the money that they get for throughout the year to go on a special camping trip in the summer. And they go crazy buying food. They buy, everything, all the luxury food that they wouldn't normally buy. And then I went to the people in line and talked to them and asked them, what do you spend the money for? What does it mean to have the bottle bill? And how do you get these cans and bottles? And they're a little different from the people who showed up in cars, some of the people in cars actually go out and collect cans and bottles from curbsides. But many of them were just redeeming their own, or they were redeeming cans and bottles from friends and family who know that, hey, you could use the money. Here you go. Like I'm giving these to you. But in the line, it was almost entirely everyone I talked to collected the cans from trash bins and recycling bins. And many, many of them were homeless. And some of them were drug users. They admitted to me that they were drug users. And I could see and they could tell me about the very hard life that they live, not having enough money to get by, being addicted and struggling with that. And, it wasn't only people telling me, it was very visible at the Delta Park BottleDrop. There were many, many people that I could see openly using drugs, including when I was standing and talking to people in line. There was a couple, and they had a spoon and they were lighting it up and they were doing drugs right behind me in line.
And I'm sure some of those scenes were a bit startling or jarring, but I'm just curious overall, sort of what stuck with you most throughout the course of this reporting?
That people who I talked to about what happens around the Delta Park bottle drop were not exaggerating. As reporters, we talk to all sorts of people, and sometimes people use hyperbole. They, get really upset or worried about something, and there may be some exaggeration there. This was a bad situation. This was a place where some people told me they wouldn't feel safe having their children with them, that they wouldn't bring their children there. And I could definitely see that because it's really unsettling to see people lighting up and apparently drug dealing. I can't confirm what's being exchanged, but I did see white pills being exchanged and people walking up to another person and handing something to that person and getting something back, and people lingering there for hours, sometimes in an apparently unconscious state. They might be sleeping, they might be passed out, I don't know, laying in the medians of the parking lot. And this is literally just, steps outside the bottle drop, maybe 30 feet away from the front door of the bottle drop.
And so what do the operators of the bottle drops or state and local officials sort of say about the conditions of these redemption centers in Portland? And as you mentioned in your reporting, that there are similar challenges and scenes all throughout the state.
Yeah. The Oregon Beverage Recycling Cooperative, which is the private company that runs BottleDrops, they say we're in control of our property. Like, we're in control of the property that we lease, and we try to be a good neighbor. We talk to businesses, we talk to residents. I found at the Northeast Portland bottle drop that at least a few of the residents I talked to had good things to say about the people who run the bottle drops, saying, they try. They put up a fence around the bottle drop. When the lighting was shining into the homes behind the bottle drop, they put up some shielding next to the light, so it wouldn't be as bad. The noise that collecting cans and bottles at really early hours in the morning, they stopped doing that. So they're trying to be a good neighbor. They've hired security guards, both at the Northeast Portland and the North Portland bottle drops. They have security guards. I did find that the neighbors, being businesses around the Delta Park bottle drop, were far less satisfied with their communications with bottle drop officials. And in fact, the property management company that leases the bottle drop to the Delta Park site, they have been trying to evict the bottle drop for years because of their concerns that it is dragging down the business community there, saying that other businesses have left. Customers are scared to show up to the other businesses. They're scared to shop there or patronize them. And that, they would rather move their business elsewhere or maybe just go out of business than limp along and struggle with what they consider a dangerous and unsettling situation.
And during your reporting, you also spent time at a place called the People's Depot. What is that place and what were you doing there?
Yeah, People's Depot. It is a bottle redemption site underneath the Morrison Bridge. It's on the east side of the Morrison Bridge, so just on the other side of the river from downtown. And that is a well-oiled machine. there were 5 stations, 5 blue kiddie pools, plastic kiddie pools. And the people who were redeeming their cans and bottles would line up. They're waiting, maybe a few dozen before opening, and they're waiting in line. As soon as the place opens, they go to the stations, and staff there just count the bottles, hand count them, hundreds and hundreds at a time. And they're very quick. And then the person who was redeeming the containers would go over to a table and get cash pretty quickly. Also, there were, services offered there, resources, information. If someone needed some help, the staff is set up there to try to help people if they need housing or drugs, or just refer them to help. They were also handing out warm pairs of socks and lots of pastries on the morning I was there. The one thing that is a problem is that it's only open 2 hours and 15 minutes a day. And that makes it really difficult to squeeze in everybody who wants to redeem their cans and bottles. This crowd is largely homeless, some of them formerly homeless. And I did talk to 12 people there, and they only one of them was not homeless. He was formerly homeless. And several of them did tell me that they do use the money for drugs, but felt like they shouldn't be judged for that, that they have a right to spend the money that they earn however they want to, just like everybody else.
One of the figures that you included in your story when talking about the People's Depot that was so surprising to me was, despite the fact that this redemption center is open like 11 hours a week, I think you said that they believe 6% of all like bottle and can returns in Portland are dropped off at this one spot underneath the Morrison Bridge. Yeah,
it is amazing to watch. And it is very noisy. All that clinking and clanging as the bottles and cans are being counted. And I originally went out there and was recording video because I wanted to show people, directly what the people there had to say, get them on video and, post that on Oregon Live. But it was so loud, I couldn't use the video.
And just to sort of wrap things up here, you mentioned at the very beginning that sort of the revisions to our bottle bill, it's pretty technical and wonky stuff. But are any of those changes or tweaks going to have sort of a fundamental impact on some of these challenges that have arisen around redemption centers and bottle returns? And if so, how? Or it could be that it's still to be written or to be determined.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing. And I don't think it's entirely clear how the bill will play out when implemented. But a big change to Oregon law was prompted by grocery stores. They were worn out. It is a lot of work to run a bottle return area in a store. It takes space, it takes employee time, and it does attract people who maybe the grocery store managers would rather not have in their stores. People who use drugs, and the grocery store is pushed to not have bottle returns in their stores or to limit them. And so there are going to be big changes underway that have to do with the way that Oregonians redeem cans and bottles. For example, it's going to limit the hours that grocery stores and some convenience stores will accept returnables. Some grocery stores in certain zones of Portland won't have to accept any cans or bottles. And that's going to funnel, the belief is that's going to funnel people to these BottleDrops, the one in Delta Park, the one at Gleason, and the People's Depot. And at least people, businesses, residents around the Delta Park BottleDrop and the Gleason Northeast Portland BottleDrop, we worry that the drug crisis around our centers, the drug dealing, the drug use, the drug overdoses is going to get worse. So to answer your question, that's my long way of circling back in that the bill did not set out to address what some people see as the cash for cans crisis, the cash for cans drug crisis. It set out to, I believe, at looking at it and talking to sources, to try to remedy this problem that grocery stores were facing, this burden that grocery stores were facing. And at the same time, get Oregonians to return these cans at these designated BottleDrops or redemption sites. There's talk of opening another redemption site like the People's Depot, maybe having a mobile redemption center to ease, to take in that load, that diverted load. But it remains to be seen whether that is going to make the problem better or worse around some of these redemption sites.
Aimee Green, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and hear your really smart and intelligent questions. You're so observant, and it's really fun as a journalist to talk with another journalist about this stuff. So thank you.
I agree. I really enjoy doing this as well. Thanks so much for listening to Beat Check with the Oregonian. If you like this show, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps people find the show, and tell a friend. Help spread the word. The best way to support our journalism and stories like this one is with a subscription to the Oregonian Oregon Live. You can do that at OregonLive.com/podsupport. Until next time.